Hey everybody, it's Global Politics with Jim Martin. Today I want to talk about a campaign of Russian sabotage that has been sweeping Western Europe, and it also expresses itself in some activities in the United States itself. This campaign really started in earnest with the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Although the GRU, Russian military intelligence, and the Foreign Service of the Russian Federation have launched operations in Europe before. For instance, we had the poisonings of the two expat folks in England. I think that was in 2018 with radioactive polonium, an extremely expensive and deadly operation, which killed, I believe, 2 people and severely injured a third or possibly 4 others. That was directly linked to Russian GRU agents. That said, in 2022, you had about 3, perhaps 5, sabotage operations in Western Europe, and these are a combination of things. In 2023, there were 12 such operations, and in 2024, there have been 34. This year alone, I think there have been at least 10, if not 12 or more, including most recently a explosive device which was placed in a Serbian munitions plant that had been supplying, through intermediaries, artillery shells to Ukraine. What are we talking about here? First, we have arson, where incendiary devices are placed within facilities like a paint factory, a shopping center, and some other facilities like that. Electrical infrastructure like substations and things like that have also been destroyed by fire using incendiary devices. And then we also have things like the Russian Shadow Fleet, which is occasionally drags anchors and destroys undersea electrical cables and fiber for communications purposes. We're also talking about things like the jamming of civil aviation GPS systems. These arson attacks are primarily perpetrated by individuals that are recruited online, paid some nominal sum, given some supplies, and then go forth and set fire to something for whatever reasons they believe that they're doing that. We've also had some assassinations over the past 2.5, 3 years, mostly of Russian expats, but occasional Ukrainian figures. Package bombs are another element of this. There have been other incidents where US and NATO military bases have been targeted. Those particular attacks were disrupted in the planning stage. And then, of course, we've had a lot of cyber attacks, ransomware attacks, denial of service attacks on critical infrastructure, rail networks, electrical companies, things like this, and healthcare systems as well. Furthermore, just to wrap it all up, you have a lot of disinformation. And I talked about that in a recent video about how the percentage of interactions that are happening online in a political sphere during various elections, about 1 in 3 interactions in some of these countries is actually with a bot, not with an actual person. The vast majority of these are attributed to the Russian military intelligence sphere. Lest we think that this has nothing to do with us, there have also been some attacks in America, mostly aligned towards cyber type work, ransomware attacks, denial of service attacks, things like that on healthcare systems and insurers. However, there were also some damaging attacks that were tracked back to Russia directed at water facilities in Texas. This is, of course, something that's extremely disturbing. Unfortunately, we don't have any more information about that for this year because the office that tracked such attacks and responded to them has been entirely shut down by the Trump administration. Another thing that's going on is that Russia has weaponized immigration. So they grab a bunch of people from their hinterlands, bring them to the border with Finland and the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and then send them to just walk over the border in the thousands. And this is, of course, creates logistical problems for all of those countries. Poland is also another prominent target of this type of work, which of course requires the complicit participation of Belarus, puppet state of Russia at this point. What is this all about? This is asymmetric warfare. This is probing for weaknesses. This is an attempt to use kinetic activity to produce intelligence insights. As noted, these have been on the uptick since the invasion of Ukraine and really target those countries which tend to support Ukraine. Some of these things have become more and more aggressive. For instance, in the Baltic Sea, we've seen Russian Shadow Fleet tankers, which are illegally exporting oil and are uninsured, that have gained protection from Russian patrol vessels because nations like Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania have been attempting to board some of these, and they commandeered one of them some months ago, and the response of the Russians is now to provide air cover and sometimes to escort them using their Baltic Sea fleet. So these kinds of things ratchet up tensions and require responses from all of those countries. When you do that, the risk jumps up. In the end, will this amount to anything? I don't know. It's not a good thing. It just increases tensions and the potential for armed conflict between a NATO state and Russia. So I hope that's interesting to you. I look forward to any comments folks might have or experiences with this. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks.